Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, January 2nd, 2021. Happy New Year. Welcome to the new year. With this being a brand new year, a brand new month, and roughly halfway through the winter, a little bit less than halfway, I wanted to take a few minutes and evaluate how this winter has been unfolding so far. So for a little bit of background, I have been keeping a detailed track of snowfalls in Kingston, New York since autumn of 2004, so about 17 years now. I record all these snowfalls on one of my websites, and I just want to compare this year and see how it looks compared against those years, the previous years. So let's take a look at winter 2020-2021. So this year so far, we have picked up about 15.9 inches of snow. For the Kingston City School District, that's been comprised of no delays, no early dismissals, and one school cancellation. That 15.9 inches has been the result of 4 different snow events in Kingston. Let's see. Our first snow of this year was back on October 29th. We picked up about 0.2 inches of snow, took a hiatus for the month of November, and then things started picking back up in December with a very tiny snowstorm of 0.2 inches, a little bit bigger snowstorm of 0.5 inches a couple days later, and then of course everyone knows our monster snowstorm on December 16th and 17th that dropped about 15 inches of snowfall in Kingston. So for this particular event, I'm going with 15.0 inches as being the total snowfall for Kingston. This is basically derived from storm reports received from the National Weather Service. So looking at that snowstorm, this that I'm highlighting right now was the reported snow totals in Ulster County. So we can see that it ranged anywhere from about 10 inches to about 19 inches across the county. If we look, a lot of storm reports fell into this 14 to 16 inch range, including a lot of local ones. So we saw 16 inches in Hurley, 16 inches in Ellenville and Woodstock, Port Ewan checked in with about 15 inches, Ulster Park 14 inches, and the town of Esopus also checked in with 14 inches. So what I did was I mapped those, looked at which was closest to Kingston, which was furthest, and roughly comes out to about 15 inches of snow within the city of Kingston. I do know that the town of Kingston, out on the outskirts, picked up a bit more. But for the city of Kingston, going with about 15 inches for that snowstorm. So, how does that 15 inches compare to the past 17 years? So glad you asked. So, this is a chart I put together of the largest snowstorms in Kingston, New York from autumn of 2004, so really beginning of 2004 through the present. So, looking at these snowstorms, our snowstorm that ended on December 17th ranks fourth out of all snowstorms. It was a pretty large event for our area. We can see that in those past 17 years, the largest one was on March 14th, 2017. Also picked up some pretty large ones of 16 to 16.9 inches in 2014 and 2007, and then we see our current one. Also interesting to note with these largest snowstorms in Kingston, we've only had 6 snowstorms within the past 17 years that have dropped a foot or more of snow. So really getting a 1-foot snowstorm only should happen about every 3 years or so. We did have one this year, and we also had one last December, so kind of back to back. So that's a little bit unusual. First time we've seen that in the past 17 years. So when we put this all into context of the whole season, we come up with our 15.9 total snowfall for this winter in Kingston. That's also pretty high. So as of New Year's Day, as of yesterday, that ranked as our fifth snowiest winter, I should say, of the past 17 years. You can see that 2008 was far and away the snowiest with over 2 feet of snow by New Year's Day. And on the flip side, 2016, 2007, very little snow had fallen by New Year's Day. So this winter, doing pretty good on the snow, mainly due to that large snowstorm. So this next chart that I'm going to show, a little bit more complicated. What this is showing is the total snowfall throughout the season, but you can kind of see also when it fell to get an idea. Did it fall steadily throughout the season? Did it all fall at one time? On the left side of the screen, we have our total inches. So the higher up on the screen that we go, the more snow that fell that winter. And then on the bottom, we kind of have our timeline. So on the left side of the screen, that's early in the winter, so November 1st. And on the right side of the screen, that's the end of the winter, April. So what I want to point out first is the yellow areas. So this bright yellow area in the middle, that's our average snowfall at that point in the season. So if we look at March 6th, we go up roughly about 37 inches of snow, and it increases as you go further in the season. This broad, bright yellow area on either side, that is what I would consider our normal range of possible snow outcomes. Here in Kingston, we average about 44 inches of snow, but it can really range over the past 17 years anyway. It's acceptable to see anywhere from 30 to 60 inches of snow. And then if we look at this darker yellow area on the fringes, that's really kind of the extreme snowfall. So the top of that line would be the most snow that we had ever seen at that point in the season, whereas on the bottom yellow line, that's the least amount of snow that we've seen at that point in the season. So I've highlighted 3 specific winters on this chart. The purple one, that is this current winter. The red one is 2019-2020, so last winter. And then the blue one is 2 winters ago. So I've highlighted the last 3 seasons to kind of compare them. And we can see that this winter, purple, really, like I said before, not much snow in October and November. Then once December hit, mid-December, you had that big spike of snow that really put us above average. And since then, we've kind of leveled off for the past 2 to 3 weeks. Now, this is interesting because it's the same kind of pattern that we saw the last 2 winters. So last year, we had no snow through November, then a big snow event in the end of November, and then we really kind of just leveled off for a couple of weeks through about mid-January, and then picked up a little bit more. And then if we go back 2 years, we see the same thing. Big early season snowstorm, dropped about 10 inches of snow, and then really went through about 2 months with no snow before things picked up in mid-January. So kind of interesting to see those big snowstorms early in the season for the past 3 years now, followed by a leveling off. It'll be interesting to see if this winter takes more of a 2019-2020 pattern where we just get a little bit of uptick towards January, February, ultimately ending below average, or if we see what we saw 2 years ago and see a more steady parade of snow events with kind of closer to average snowfall throughout the season. Just looking ahead, Kingston Snows is monitoring 3 winter weather areas. I will say that actually one of those is the storm that moved through last night. That brought some snow up near Albany, also brought some freezing rain down here in the Hudson Valley. I haven't tallied up the snow reports from that, so they are not included in these totals so far. But just glancing at the National Weather Service, really doesn't look like a whole lot of accumulation in the Hudson Valley. The Albany, Rensselaer, Saratoga area picked up 1 to 2 inches. It looks like, based on the local webcams, that some parts of Ulster County picked up a decent amount of ice. So this is High Falls down near Stone Ridge. Things have cleared up, it stopped icing, but if you zoom in, you can kind of see a little bit of ice accumulation on some of these wooden posts, some patchy areas on the grass potentially. So there was definitely a glaze of ice in the Hudson Valley. But looking at the rest of the winter, we might see a little bit of snow on Sunday, an inch or 2. Currently considering that a low snow threat. Not going to get into the details for this video. And then also monitoring a 3rd storm system that is expected to move into the Oregon Pacific Northwest early next week, and then track across the country. Still too early to say if it will actually impact us or if it'll just kind of pass to our south, that's why I'm kind of considering it a very low threat at this point. So that kind of covers our snowfall. Just to recap, the season, started off quiet. That big snowstorm put us really above average, but since then we've been kind of leveling off. So we'll see if we get that uptick or if we kind of flatten out and end up below average like we did last year. The last thing that I want to take a look at now is the temperatures for our local area. So these temperatures I'm taking from the Poughkeepsie Airport right across the river. The records there go back to 1948. So for this November and December, our average temperature was 39.4 degrees. Putting that in some sort of context, we can see that since 1948, that's about our 5th warmest November and December on record. So it's been pretty warm relative to previous years. We will also see if that continues this month. And then the last thing that I'm going to leave you with is, I know I said we picked up a little bit of ice overnight, but I saw this interesting popped up on my Facebook. Basically, apparently 4 years ago, we had an ice storm as well, and I recorded it and put it on my Facebook. So this is just me slipping around on some ice for the remainder of this video. I will let this play. You have a great day, great winter, and I will be back with some updates later on.